just waiting for you to finish your coffee.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Frères, Heureux. Still not convinced I'm pronouncing that right.
I have no idea.
Yeah, probably not.
Giving it a bash.
I'm trying. That's what counts. We are the Happy Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
We bring you a Frasier podcast. We are currently on episode... what episode are we on? Seven?
Yep.
Episode 7. Season 2, Disc 3 this week of the eponymous 90s sitcom. I hope I used that word right.
I think so.
Try to sound smart.
I got in trouble in school for using it wrong, so now I'm always worried about using it.
I used it. It can't be done. Can't be undone now.
Yeah.
Just have to roll with it.
We're stuck with it.
My name is Frasier.
I'm Ewan.
And we're bringing you some more hijinks this week.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of an up and down disc.
Mostly down, in my opinion.
I would disagree.
Yeah?
I would disagree. Upon rewatch, I think it's significantly better than I remember it.
Yeah.
We have a special guest once again this week. My lovely dog Harry is
Plodding about,
doing the rounds, keeping everyone on their toes.
Yeah.
Probably making loud whining noises throughout the episode, so we do apologise.
It can't be helped. We've postponed recording long enough.
Yeah, and we need to get this done. So, Harry or no Harry, we will get it done tonight. So, almost at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than I remember it.
I'm kind of the opposite, to be honest.
Really?
I don't remember there being quite as much of a dip, but this, I'm not. There are a couple of episodes in this disc that I do still really like. I don't think they're 5s, but they're still good.
Okay.
But the other 4, I just think are like pretty consistently bad.
Interesting.
Truthfully,
because I don't know which 4. Because honestly, there's only one in this disc that I would say is a significant dip in quality.
Ooh, we're going to be getting into it.
Oh, it might be.
Getting into our differing opinions for once.
Yeah. Well, we'll get down to it. We start off this week with Retirement is Murder. A Martin-centric episode.
Yeah.
Sort of. It's focused around his story, but he's not really the main character.
Mm-hmm.
After leaving the force, he had a few unsolved cases. This one in particular, I think it's called
the Weeping Lotus murder.
Weeping Lotus murder,
which is supposed to be kind of a reference to the Black Dahlia, I suppose.
Yeah. So it was a pretty big case, and Martin was one of, if not the lead detective on the case. As we find out throughout the episode, the mother of the victim is getting on in years. Martin's kind of reignited a flame under Martin to solve the case. And so he sits down and sets his mind to it. Frasier, being Frasier, sticks his nose into business that is not his to stick his nose into.
As always, thinks he knows better than Martin, and oh god,
it leads to a bit of madness.
Yeah, definite madness. Yeah, completely lost his marbles.
Yeah. So that's Retirement is Murder. I quite like this episode.
Yeah,
but I think I like it more in my memory than I did when I rewatched it this time.
Mm-hmm. It definitely has its strong moments, but overall, I hate Frasier in this episode because he's just such an arrogant cock, frankly.
He is.
And I think the way it rounds up with quite such an uncomfortable, another one of those cringe scenes where Frasier is just brought on himself. He just makes himself look so stupid.
I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad.
But yeah.
Anyway.
But
we start. Yeah. So I think it's got some nice scenes in it. You know, we start with Martin and Daphne working together. So he's kind of enlisted her help. Frasier makes a joke about it being, Saturday night in Seattle. Shay Crane,
Yeah.
and his father and home healthcare worker are looking over photographs of a murdered prostitute.
Yeah.
What a way to spend your Saturday night. And Frasier, I don't think Frasier quite understands the importance and like significance of the case.
No, he's very quick to dismiss it.
They have obviously heard it before though, because he mentions a couple of times, you know, like, oh, Dad's still on this one.
Yeah.
So he's obviously been there before.
Mm-hmm. They'd have actually mentioned the Weeping Lotus murders a couple of times.
They do,
in
yeah,
the show,
they do actually, you're right.
In the first handful of episodes, I think. So it's something that has actually, not setting up this episode exactly so much as just they came up with the name early on and then brought it back up later. But
basically it kind of wears on Frasier's mind, and he and Niles want to get Martin away from the case. They don't think he should be obsessing over it as much as he is, which that's not really their decision to make.
No, it's not.
They kind of take it upon themselves to do that. At least I like the scene at the basketball match. They take Martin out. It's it's funny seeing the three of them. You've got Niles, who just has zero interest in basketball. Frasier, who's always willing to try something. And then you've got Martin, who obviously does love basketball, but he's very distracted tonight.
Yeah.
So you've got kind of Frasier sitting in the middle of these two people who just don't really care.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get involved. He orders the peanuts from the Peanut Man and throws them at Niles, and Niles has no idea what's happening.
David Hyde Pierce's eyebrow acting in this scene when he's getting pelted with peanuts is just hysterical. He manages to get one eyebrow covering one eye and the other eyebrow practically touching his hairline. It's very impressive.
I didn't pick up on that, I have to say.
There's a huge distance.
I'll need to go back and see
between the two.
And Frasier's getting involved in the Mexican wave and everything. Niles eventually gives up. He sticks on, was it West Side Story?
West Side Story.
And his Walkman or disc player or whatever he's got. And Martin as well is just too distracted. He keeps thinking about the case and can't stick it out. But I quite like the scene. I like just a change in venue, and I like the three of them together.
That's true.
It's always just nice seeing the Crane boys together.
It's also nice seeing Frasier and Niles make a bit of an effort. For once,
also,
not
also
something
true.
that happens much at all. Like, I mean, there's another scene much later on in the show when they go to a basketball game together, and they're a lot less enthusiastic than they were this time.
What one is that?
The one
there's a few basketball games they go to.
Oh no, that's true. There are a couple. I'm thinking of the one when the three of them go together, where Niles winds up winning the half court shot.
Yeah,
the two of them they're just sitting arguing with each other and bickering and while Martin's trying to watch the game.
I remember. I remember the outcome of that scene. I don't remember
this time. Frasier's trying to actually getting involved. He's read up on sports critics' theories on what the players should be doing, and he's kind of relaying this to Martin and trying to encourage him, which is nice.
And Niles is saying, "Oh, we've taken him everywhere from the Zen garden to the Arboretum." Wait a minute, the Zen garden is at the Arboretum. Is it possible we've only taken him to one place? Showing that they really don't care much about taking him places and whatnot.
Also, Martin isn't going to want to go to a Zen garden or an arboretum.
Martin's not interested in going where they want to go.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes both ways. But yeah, the boys go out and they have their fancy dinner afterwards. I can't remember if they say where it goes. Probably Le Cigare Volant.
Probably.
Martin heads home and is sitting working on the case. He then gets tired and has an early night. Frasier and Niles and Daphne as well, I suppose, kind of take it upon themselves to...
They'll get a bit swept up.
Take a look at the case and get interested in it. And Frasier does say that he's looked at it before, but he couldn't solve it before either. So I don't really know why he thinks that he knows better this time. But I
hate it.
I think it's hilarious. So the murderer's ex-boyfriend, I think, was a performer in Las Vegas.
He was like an animal trainer.
Is it Clyde somebody?
Clive something.
Or is Clyde the name of the... Monkey. I can't remember.
I can't remember. He has monkeys.
Yeah.
Man.
Anyway, so the animal trainer, Frasier fixates on that, and the monkey comes up, that he basically trained monkeys to, I don't know, perform on stage. Speaking of pesky monkeys.
Speaking of trained animals.
Or
untrained
not,
animals.
untrained animals.
Coming here with his squeaky rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Frasier decides that the only way that this murder could possibly have been committed, and that Martin never would have thought about such an obvious, albeit out there theory, is if the murder was committed by one of these trained monkeys.
Yeah. So the ex-boyfriend trained the monkey to nip past and shoot the poor woman, gun her down. I mean,
he's just so stupid. He's so stupid. The three of them are.
I get it. I get it. Like, it does. His theory does make sense. It is feasible. Mm-hmm. What bothers me is the fact that he kind of jumps to this conclusion, and then he's like, "Oh my god, we solved it.
Yeah,
we did it. This is the answer."
Yeah. But
there's no. He doesn't know that.
There's no proof at all.
There's no.
It's just a completely unsubstantiated theory.
He just jumps to it and assumes that he solved it. And in the hype and everything, Martin comes back through, and Frasier's kind of rearranged the photographs to basically try and let Martin rediscover what he's just discovered.
Yeah.
Martin comes back and he's like, "Oh my god, I've done it. I've solved it." And everyone in the room is sort of like, "Oh my god, we know what happened." So Martin goes away and he does his thing and phones the police, and we're all thinking, "Oh, Martin's come to the same conclusion." Martin didn't come to the same conclusion. No. Martin's a smart man. He does not think a monkey killed a prostitute. Just saying it aloud is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the next day, Martin's old friend, it's Frank again, isn't it?
It's Frank.
Frank
the
from the police force.
Return of Frank.
Return of Frank from Can't Tell a Crook
by its cover.
In season 1, comes back, and he comes in very stern-faced, and we're still, as the audience, we're thinking that it's still the monkey that did it, that's the same theory that Martin's going with. So Frank comes in, Frank comes in, and he's very stern-faced, and he's kind of winding Martin up, and sort of saying, like, you know, your theory was insane. We put so many men on it overnight, and Martin's kind of apologising, and he's like, "Oh no, I've ruined it again." And then Frank turns around and says, "We nailed the bastard."
Yeah.
And Martin's like, "Oh my god, yeah." And he's just overwhelmed, and it's great. And there's all the police officers come in from outside to congratulate him, which I think is really lovely.
Yeah.
The fact that Martin still got it after all these years, and the fact that all these people want to come and congratulate him. And, you know, Frasier's kind of standing Frasier and Daphne are standing in the background, sort of very self-congratulatory, like, "Oh, well, we helped him do it." And Martin at that point sort of realizes, or Frasier tells him that he was the one who sort of led him onto it. But they're obviously thinking of completely different suspects. And while Frasier's away, one of the other police officers says to Martin, like, you know, "How did you know it was?" I think
Detective Shelby.
Somebody Shelby.
It was like one of the cops working the case.
Yeah. It turns out that he was the one who had killed Helen.
Yeah.
But Frasier doesn't realise this, so he comes back into the room. Martin tries to get Frasier to take some of the praise, and of course, as he does, he makes a complete tit of himself, announcing that he thought it was the monkey that did it.
God.
He builds it up, and then as soon as he announces it, there's just a room of silence, and he realizes what he's done. Mm-hmm. It's brilliant. I love it. I think it's really funny. It doesn't have that like cringe factor. It's more like just him.
I always
making
dread
an ass of himself.
I always dread watching it.
Oh no, I like it.
Yeah, there are a lot of good bits in this episode, but I hate the end. I hate the whole premise of Frasier being so convinced that it was a monkey committing a murder, and
I just like when Frasier gets taken down to size.
It is
especially
funny.
by like Martin,
It is seeing him,
who's
funny
clearly
getting-
just
seeing him made fun of.
on the ball. He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, I love just watching Frasier get taken down to size.
It's nice.
Always so funny. So big question then.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that it's not so great overall,
Yeah,
how many cups of coffee?
1.
Oh,
Just 1. This is
no.
this is a 1 for me. I
No.
don't like. There's good bits in it, but I don't think it's enough to save it. There's Niles has some good lines, or I don't even think it's necessarily the dialogue. It's more just David Hyde Pierce's acting in this is very good. And there's one great line when Martin's beating himself up after he's gone to the police station and saying, like, I can't believe I went in with such a half-assed theory. It's completely ridiculous. I don't know why I thought this. And that's when Frasier confesses, well, actually, I'm the one. I came up with it and then rearranged the pictures to try and make you come up with it as well. But when he says, like, oh, no, it's my fault. I did it. Martin just pauses and just glares at him for a second and just goes, you killed her? And that's a very funny joke.
Yeah.
And I love John Mahoney's delivery there. But it's, overall, I just don't think the episode does anything much for me.
I think you're wrong, if I'm being honest. I think it's definitely not a 1. I settled on a 3-cupper, but a high 3.
Yeah.
I almost gave it a 4, but I settled on a 3. I love it. I think it's a really good episode. I think it's a really strong episode. It's not the funniest, but it's definitely up there in terms of plot. I like it. It's unique. It's quite simple as well, though. It's quite straightforward.
I suppose, yeah, in a way. Well, I mean, the whole monkey murder plot line.
But that, I mean, that's
the idea
ridiculous.
of that
That's
is
ridiculous. But like, just the
plot
simple
overall,
concept
no, I
of
can see where you're
Martin
coming
is
from with that.
stuck on a case and is trying to solve it. I like that. I like that aspect of it. I like seeing Martin's life before he was living with Frasier.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Some of my favourite interactions as well in the show are between Niles and Roz, but Niles and Bulldog as well. And I think this is the first episode where Niles and Bulldog meet.
This is the episode where they meet, yeah.
Niles comes by at the start of the episode to see Frasier at the radio station. And Niles, they introduce each other, and Niles says, you're the man I need to ask about sports. Why can't I find the Ivy League squash standings anywhere? And Bulldog's just like so taken aback. It's like
He just cracks up.
he just laughs at him. He's like, oh wow, Frasier, another one like you.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love just how weird the Crane Boys are to just normal people. So those interactions are always really fun. So yeah, no, I settled on a 3. I think a high 3, but a 3 nonetheless. And I disagree with you wholeheartedly with it being 1. I could maybe let it slide if it was a 2.
It's a low one for me.
But a 1, that's too low. Too low. Fine. We'll
We
move
did,
on.
right at the beginning, get a good guest call in this one, though.
I was going to say, any
good guest caller.
nice guest
There
callers?
is, yes. Mary Steenburgen, which is a name that I didn't actually recognize, but then when I looked the actress up, I thought, oh god, I do know who that is. So she was the actress that played, she was in Back to the Future 3. She played Clara, Doc Brown's love interest in Back to the Future 3. She's also been in a bunch of other films, like she was in Elf and the Step Brothers. Not the Step Brothers, just Step Brothers. Is it obvious that I don't care for Will Ferrell movies? He was in The Proposal. Yeah, kind of lots of very good at playing upper middle class kind of wasp women.
Okay, yeah,
which is very good.
I don't think a real category, but I know what you mean.
And she also, around about the time or about 6 months or so after this episode aired, she married Ted Danson.
Oh, really?
And they're still happily married.
How about
to
that?
this day, which doesn't often happen in Hollywood, but it's very sweet.
How about
and she's
that?
Political activist and environmental activist and all that.
Nice.
So I would like reading about Mary Steenburgen. She seems like a cool person.
Ted Danson as well.
Ted
Makes,
Dan-
an appearance.
He does later on.
Very shortly.
We'll get to
very
that.
shortly. Well, there we go. So we move on to one of my least favourite episodes of the entire show.
Wow.
What?
We've just gone in complete opposites here.
Is this is not your only?
It's not my only highly rated one in this disc, but it's one of two.
No, I do not believe you.
No,
you're doing this to just.
I've already written it down.
Oh my god. Okay, you can lead this one then.
Okay. So
don't want a biased opinion.
Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice.
Yeah.
Which shall henceforth be referred to only as fool me once, because who has the fucking time?
Yeah.
Centers around Frasier getting taken a loan of by a con artist, I suppose.
Yeah.
Someone who steals his identity, really. Yep. He's in the cafe, he sets his briefcase down. Someone very sneakily snatches his briefcase while he's up ordering a coffee, and Niles and Roz are busy arguing with each other. Frasier then appeals on the radio to try and get the briefcase back, and gets a call from someone saying, "Oh, I found your briefcase. This is the stuff that's in it. So clearly it's yours. It's got your ID in it and everything. Why don't I come and I'll drop it off at your work or whatever?" And Frasier says, "Well, meet me at the cafe and we'll have a coffee," which is a really stupid thing to do, having had someone just steal your briefcase.
Yep.
To be honest, if someone had stolen something of mine and then called to tell me they had found it, my first instinct probably wouldn't have been that they were lying and trying to then steal my car, which is what happens to Frasier.
Well, the whole the under sort of tones of this episode are that Frasier believes in the good in people.
Yes,
he wants to believe that that there is good even in the people or the person who has stolen his stuff. Mm-hmm. He's convinced that even though he's lying, the person who claims to have found his things is good and is doing it purely altruistically. Yeah.
Which he is not.
Of course he's
Martin warns him, as he has done before.
Several times.
As he did Can't Tell a Crook by Its Cover.
Yep.
As he did in The Crucible.
Yep.
Both in season 1. Talking about how anytime crime comes up, Martin has a very cynical attitude that people suck and you can't trust them. Yep. And if someone tries to steal something, they're probably going to try and steal something else because that's just what they do. Which turns out to be very true. Frasier goes to meet this man, hoping to get his briefcase back, and just winds up getting his car stolen because he had a spare set of car keys in the briefcase.
Niles is actually the one to catch on to that one.
Yes.
And as Frasier's describing it, as he's being very, oh yes, and I told Dad that there's good in people, and see, this person's coming to return my briefcase, blah 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 blah. And Niles is sort of, it clicks in his head, and he says, wait, so you agreed to meet the person who has your briefcase with a spare set of your car keys in the briefcase? You agreed to meet them here, where they knew you'd be, and where they knew you'd bring your car.
Yeah.
And Frasier still is dismissive until they turn around and realise that his car is in the act of being stolen.
Currently moving down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very funny. And then Frasier winds up getting a call from someone saying that they spent the night before with him. A woman saying that they had slept with him, which isn't true. Mm-hmm. And this is when Frasier realizes that this thief has not only stolen his briefcase and his car and his clothes from the dry cleaners, but has also taken his name and is basically trying to steal his identity. Yeah. Or I say tries. He's successfully stolen Frasier's identity.
I don't think it's not quite a full-on, stealing his identity. It's just using his identity for his own means.
Because clearly there's only so far that you're going to get with someone who has their picture on the side of a bus.
Exactly.
Probably further in the 90s than you would now in the age of Twitter, where you can very clearly see what celebrities look like very easily.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the finale of the episode is set in a restaurant. After the woman phones in, who claims they spent the night together, she cancels their dinner date.
Yeah.
So Frasier uses that as an opportunity to catch out the con man.
Yeah.
Obviously knowing that he's going to be at that specific restaurant. And he bumps into a woman who says she's a big fan and, you know, nice to meet you and blah, blah, blah. And then she kind of says, oh no, wait, hold on. Didn't you say the other day on the radio that someone's trying to steal your identity? And she immediately assumes that he is the con man because he doesn't have his ID. It's been stolen. But if she listens to his show every day, she'll know what he sounds like.
Yeah.
He's got a very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
And that really bothers me.
Kelsey Grammer and Nathan Lane, the wonderful Nathan Lane, who is playing the con artist, have very different voices.
Yep.
One of them sounds like Sideshow Bob.
Yeah.
And the other one sounds like Timon and or Pumbaa. I don't know. I've never seen The Lion King.
Wait, you've never seen The Lion King?
I've never seen The Lion King.
What have you been doing? Why are you watching Frasier and you've never seen The Lion King?
Anyway, yeah, then we did get this. I don't know if you would say it's nice. I think it's funny because I think Nathan Lane's very good in this. The kind of scene at the end, which is just a bit of dialogue between Frasier and inverted commas Frasier.
Yeah.
Fake Frasier, played by Nathan Lane.
We don't find out his name, actually, do we?
No, I never find out his name.
Man's name.
They just have this back and forth where he kind of talks about why he got into con art. I don't know if you wouldn't really call it that.
Yeah, what is the profession, I guess?
Getting into stealing and being an all-round nuisance, I suppose. And I actually think it's very funny. There's a lot of good back and forth between the two of them. I think Nathan Lane's performance in it is great. He actually got nominated for an Emmy, like a guest actor Emmy for that. Yeah, for what is actually quite a short
He's
thing.
Only
He's
in
only
it.
in
Well,
it for,
I mean, his voice is in it earlier.
Yeah.
For, you know, a minute-long conversation.
Yeah, if that, 30-second phone call, and then, 4 or 5 minutes maybe at the end of the episode?
If that.
Yeah, really not very long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's great. I just really like this episode because I really enjoy the two of them, and
so I don't. Okay,
funny. You don't like
and I'm
it.
going to tell you why.
Yeah.
One of the big things is the end. So the ending of the episode is that woman who I mentioned earlier runs away from Frasier because she assumes that he's the one.
Yeah,
impersonating.
He's the fake.
She runs away and she immediately goes to the police. While she's doing that, Frasier and conman / Nathan Lane have their conversation. They have their sit down. Blah 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 blah. So Frasier is just so frustrating here because he just wants to believe everything this con man says.
Yeah.
This man who he knows is a criminal, but he believes everything he says, that he wants to do better, that he knew he'd get caught one day and blah, 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 and whatever. Use my phone to call the police or, it just infuriates me.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember if they phone the police or they're about to phone the police, but as they're doing that, the woman from earlier comes back in with the police officers and she tells them to arrest real Frasier.
Yeah.
And of course, fake Frasier jumps on that and says, "Yep, that's them. That's the man. That's fake Frasier. I've got the IDs to prove it." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And Frasier gets hauled away and presumably arrested and then let off. Or
I'll
whatever,
get dealt with very quickly. But
and it just infuriates me when people are like that because it's so obvious in real life. People aren't like that.
Yeah.
And things like. I hate these things. I hate when people are bullied in TV shows. I can't quite describe it because it's not just like bullying, but things like this, where they're basically letting these awful things happen to them through their own stupidity.
Yeah.
I hate watching that. It just totally ruins my immersion in that world because I can't believe that there are people in real life that would be so bloody stupid.
Yeah.
So I really, really hate these kinds of episodes.
All right.
I just can't stand them.
I think it kind of comes back to the Crucible for me. I really liked Hayson, Philip Hayson, the art gallery owner from the Crucible. I really liked him, and I think it's kind of a similar character where he's just this smarmy arsehole that just totally takes advantage of Frasier and entirely gets away with it. And I don't know. I like characters like that.
Okay. No, see, I can't. So I'll do mine first because you can probably guess. But I gave this 1 cup of coffee.
You gave us a 1.
Easy 1. Low 1. Like, wow. This is one of my least favorite episodes in the whole show. I almost skipped it. Yeah. And was going to just tell you that I'd watched it. Because I just genuinely just had no desire to rewatch it. Yeah. And
after I watched Can't Buy Me Love, this is terrible.
Okay, so what did you give it?
I gave it a 4.
A 4?
I gave it a 4. Yeah, I gave it a 4. I think it's deserving of a 4. I think it's a great episode. I think there's other good bits in it as well. There's a great interaction, as I mentioned, Niles and Roz sitting in the coffee shop bickering.
The Niles and Roz bit is good, yeah.
Fantastic bit between the two of them where, I mean, we've seen them interact before and they kind of have these little jabs with each other. It's reached the point where Roz comes into the coffee shop and decides to sit somewhere else because she doesn't want to sit with Niles. And then Niles says, name one time I've been mean to you. And she says, last week you said my bedroom was easier to get into than a community college. And he goes, yeah, I was hoping that would be the one you'd name. Which is really funny. And just the two of them going at each other is great. And there's a line, I don't know, about halfway through the episode while Frasier's in the radio station. And Roz is... This actually comes back to something I was talking about a couple of episodes ago. Roz is talking about how she wants to take an afternoon off or she wants to leave early or something. And she says that it's because her girlfriend's in town. Mm-hmm. And I think this is using... Well, I don't know if it's necessarily outdated, like to refer to someone as a girlfriend platonically. Women would refer to their female friends as girlfriends.
That's not really used as common anymore.
It's not as common now as it was in the 90s. But I don't think that's... It's still ambiguous enough. I'm choosing to take that as proof that Roz is bisexual. I'm taking it. I'm running with it. She's an icon.
She's certainly alluded to it on multiple occasions. So I have no problem with that at all.
It's definitely more concrete evidence than just the fact that she likes both cats and dogs.
That's true.
Which is all we've had before now.
That's true.
But no, I like the episode, so I'm giving it a 4.
4 cupper. I can't believe that. I feel like you're scamming me. I feel like the floor's gonna drop out from underneath me. There's some big game that you're playing here. Yeah. Have you ever been scammed? You've been scammed like that?
No.
I mean, obviously not as bad as that, I don't think. But
No. I can't really think of anything. I think to be honest, I kind of buy into Martin's attitude of just being very cynical towards people. No, I'm more likely to, unless someone can prove their sob stories or their whatever reason that they need something. If I think it's a scam, I'm not going near it. Yeah. Unless I have good reason to believe that it's true.
No, that's fair. I was thinking about it. I was just sort of the running through the episode and thinking about times that it's happened to me. Yeah. There's been a couple of times where I've jumped on, like the Facebook advert shopping sites, get something for a discount or whatever. There was one semi-recently that was, I can't remember what it was I bought. And it just never came. Yeah. And I just emailed and eventually had to just give up because it was obviously just a complete scam. And I get that it happens and it's easy to do, but it just frustrates me that I was so stupid and that other people could be so stupid on such a grander scale. Yeah. Like, that was 20 quid that I lost. That's not the end of the world. But there's people that fall into thousands of pounds worth of debt just because of someone sending them an email.
Pyramid schemes and
it's nuts,
all this multi-level marketing.
And it's nuts that people do this as well. Yeah. I hate bullies. I hate people that prey on others.
Tying back into the first episode with Frasier and his monkey pictures, I mean, NFTs, they're a scam. People are losing lots of money to that.
Don't get me started on these NFTs. The bloody monkeys. The monkey JPEGs. JPEGs.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
Oh, God. Okay, moving swiftly on before we get stuck on NFTs and silly monkeys. Now, the next episode surprised me a lot on my rewatch, I have to say. You Scratch My Book. Obviously, a play on You Scratch My Back.
Yep.
I'll scratch yours. Is all about a local author by the name of Dr. Honey Snow. We're not entirely sure if she is an actual doctor or if she just uses the title of doctor.
Yeah. I'm inclined to believe that she's a real doctor because she talks about being familiar with Niles's papers.
I was going to bring that up, yeah. She's kind of played as a... Now, what's the polite word?
There's definitely a word that comes to mind for me, but not very polite.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid using impolite words here.
Because she's attractive, people assume, and she's attractive and has mass appeal in her writing.
Yeah.
People assume that she's stupid.
But it's all...
Frasier and Niles assume that she's stupid.
They assume she's stupid, and she also writes these very stereotypical, inspirational, but ultimately meaningless books. Yeah. These sort of self-help books. I'm going to skirt past the fact that I couldn't find a good word to actually define her.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dr. Honey Snow has written these books. Daphne's a fan. She can't make it to one of the book signings, so asks Frasier to go down. He, through Roz's intervention, meets her face to face, and she's quite taken by him for whatever reason.
God knows why.
One of the great mysteries of the show is why Frasier seems to be so irresistible.
I have no idea.
But she obviously, as you say, is very, very attractive. The actress, Shannon Tweed, was actually a Playboy bunny.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that? She also starred in a number of erotic thrillers.
Yeah.
That is the actual genre, apparently.
Yeah,
I didn't realise that was the actual name of the genre.
I was going to say Basic Instinct, but I don't that kind of thing. But I don't think she was in that.
No, it's like softcore porn,
right?
Basically,
okay.
But under the guise of a thriller film. Yeah, I did a lot of research on this episode.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
So yeah, I've lost my train of thought now. I'm thinking about these.
I'm thinking about Shannon Tweed.
No, so Frasier and Dr. Honey Snow become involved. It ultimately leads to Frasier being asked to write a foreword for her new book. Frasier obviously struggles with this inner moral conflict, which has come up so often in the show so far. Whether or not he can actually do it, whether or not he wants to do it and lend his name to this kind of... Niles has all sorts of names for it, but sort of pop psychiatry, the sort of easy, not really medically proven help and advice.
Yeah.
And it culminates with Frasier and Dr. Snow going their separate, having a bit of a disagreement and going their separate ways.
God, this is another episode that I just hate Frasier in because he's so horny. He's so horny for Honey Snow.
He is, and fair play.
Yeah, not that she's not worth being horny for, but it's come on.
So
have some respect.
Yes, I think. Not only that, I think she deserves respect. I think the fact that he is lying to her throughout most of this episode, he is the one who is basically pretending to be a fan of hers, pretending to like her book, pretending to like her work, and leading her on while dating her essentially. And she obviously, or at least on the surface, is a fan of his. She seems to be a genuine admirer. And not only that, of Niles as well.
Yep.
There's a point where they meet and she mentions that she's read papers of Niles, which is, I was going to lean on that. I think that leads credence to the fact that she actually is quite intelligent.
Yeah.
That, she is played off as this sort of blonde self-help guru, not actually that intelligent, but she clearly is. If she's reading proper psychiatric works and she's aware of other authors and things like that, she's obviously knows what she's doing. And I'd never really thought of that before watching it this time. So I quite like the main plot in this. I like Dr. Honey Snow. I think maybe I'm horny for her. Maybe that's
I think she's a good character. I think
she is. I think she is.
Shannon Tweed shows surprising aptitude for like comedy.
Yeah,
I think she's like a very good actress. She does a lot of like I don't really know how to put it. The way that she emotes and the way that she performs works very well in the kind of comedic setting.
I think especially in the final scene with her and Frasier, when they're finally getting down to it, and basically he comes clean and says that he can't do the foreword for her new book because he doesn't like the book. He doesn't like the new book. And she's very attracted to this. She hasn't met a man with such honesty before. And I think that's quite sad. It's sad, quite sad that she's only really met men who see her as, you know, an attractive woman and they'll lie to her just to sleep with her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is I don't know if it's the first time, but it's the first time recently that someone has been so honest and not cared about that side of her.
Yeah.
That they want to be honest and upfront with her. It's a shame. But it's fair play to him, fair play to Frasier. He does come clean, and she is quite attracted to that, so they start to get down to it. She reveals some things that she doesn't like about him. His talking about wine and the way he drones on and on and on.
Yeah.
And he eventually admits that he thinks her first few books are crap as well.
Yeah.
The lovey-dovey then stops, and she admits that she was very very proud of her first few books.
Yeah.
And tells Frasier to get out.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole scene, she's very good in that.
Yeah.
Shannon Tweed is
definitely
acting there is very, her bouncing off Kelsey Grammer and just the way that she carries herself in the back and forth, and the sort of physical like they're obviously making out and kissing and stuff in between, and then she's the comedic timing of what is it she says at the end. You better, I can't remember what it is she says.
Oh, Frasier says that her books are saccharine, meaning that they're kind of artificial and like sickly sweet. And then he kind of tries to but when he realizes that he's not getting any ass, he tries to backpedal on that by saying like, oh, I love saccharin, I use it every day. And she says, well, I'm glad you like saccharin because you're not getting any honey. Which is very funny.
Love that line. That is really good. And that's I think she's very good in it, and she is a highlight. I have to admit, I kind of reduced her in my memory from watching it previous times to that kind of silly, blonde bimbo character. But watching it this time, she's so much more than that.
Yeah.
So I was really quite surprised in rewatching it how much I enjoyed this episode, and not only for that plot, but for the B plot as well.
Yeah.
Which is very, very funny. Niles has a stock tip from his new broker, and he convinces, or Daphne convinces him to let her buy some of that stock, and basically he goes away and makes her some money on the stock market via his broker. She's very excited by this and keeps like rolling it over, and presumably doing this a fair few times to make some more money. It turns out obviously that that Niles has been lying apart from the first time, and he just didn't want to disappoint Daphne. So he's basically been paying her out of his own pocket.
Yeah.
And just some of their interactions is great. When Niles brings the first check to Daphne and gives Niles a hug, Frasier walks in and says, "Oh, what's going on here?" And Daphne says something like, "Well, your brother's just paid me $200 and now he's going to roll me over." The way that Frasier just looks at Niles, and Niles says, it's fine, it's a communications breakdown. Just kind of dismissing the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just really like that. I don't know. I like I like Niles.
It's quite a funny B plot, yeah.
It's good. Yeah. So, what did you think?
I'm doubting myself a little bit here because I gave it a 1. But now I'm thinking maybe bumping it up. The issue I have with the episode is just that it annoys me seeing Honey Snow not being taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Even the writing in the show kind of plays her down as just being kind of stupid and not to be taken seriously just because she's so different. And also seeing Frasier being just a real piece of shit in this one because he claims that I need to be honest with her because I owe her that much, I owe her respect, but he's already led her on to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's honest with her. It works in his favor for a second until he takes it too far, and then he immediately tries to backpedal.
Yeah.
With the hopes of getting back in her pants, which is just despicable, frankly. Really made me hate Frasier a little bit. And I think that's enough to actually keep it at a 1 for me. I'm not willing to bump it up. I'm sticking with a 1.
That's disappointing, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think a lot of these episodes recently have kind of been showing that Frasier's not a great person.
No, he's not.
He kind of tries to be in his own way, but he kind of ends up not being a great guy.
I try to look at Frasier in a sympathetic light, but it becomes more and more difficult. It's become more difficult recently after I found out that Kelsey Grammer is like loudly pro-life.
He's a complicated chap.
He has some pretty bad political opinions.
Yeah.
And it definitely makes me like the character of Frasier less. I know it shouldn't, but it does. I've always kind of thought that Frasier would be more liberal, even though he is quite well off. But it makes me think that Frasier's probably a Republican. I don't
know. We have spoken about the politics and stuff before. That they're sort
in the
of,
last episode.
They're quite outwardly liberal, as in when they're trying to get in other people's favor.
Yeah.
But I think inwardly, as you say, they're quite well off. They're quite upper class, so they probably do skew a bit conservatively in a lot of areas. Oh well, poor Frasier.
So how would you rate the episode?
I gave it... Now, I had a bit of a toss-up. I almost gave it a 4.
Yeah.
But I settled for a high 3.
Another high 3?
Same as Retirement is Murder. I settled for a high 3. Because it is great, but it just doesn't quite... When I'm comparing it to other episodes, especially some of them that are coming up, I just couldn't give it that 4. But going into it, it was a 1. As in, from memory, from previous watches, I was giving it a 1 quite firmly. So I'm quite impressed that it managed to change my mind this time round.
Yeah.
It's got some really great lines.
It does have some good lines.
One of my favourites, which I missed, and I don't know if the quote has happened yet. I can't quite pinpoint in my mind when it happens first. But Frasier, behind Niles' back, while he's going on with all the stock options and things like that for Daphne, Frasier purchases his own stock in the same company and basically confronts Niles, saying that his stock has gone down while Daphne's is going up. So what's going on there? What's happening? Convinces Niles to tell him that he's lying, just to make Daphne happy. But in doing so, he also says to Niles that he is going to invest like $10,000, and Martin is also convinced to spend more money and put it into the stock. Obviously, forcing Niles' hand to either admit it or pay
all of them
a lot of money. And when Martin and Daphne leave the flat, Niles, David Hyde Pierce, turns around and he does, "I hope you're happy," which I think is used a couple of times throughout the show.
Yeah.
But I'm
I would
pretty
think
sure
so.
it's Frasier who uses it the most. And Kelsey Grammer obviously has this great booming voice. He has this great shouting voice as well. And he does it a couple of times. You know, his, I hope you're happy. And I love it.
Yeah.
And I just love it. And I noticed that it was Niles that says it this time. So I wanted to bring that up.
That is funny.
Because I love it.
Yeah.
Anything with David Hyde Pierce, man. Anything. Just love the guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to dwell too much on the difference between our scores.
Okay.
So I'm hoping we will consolidate them slightly with the next episode.
We'll see.
Fingers crossed. Because the show where Sam comes back, unsurprisingly, brings us the return of Sam. Sam Malone from Cheers. Played by the wonderful Ted Danson.
Ted Danson is great.
Who we have mentioned previously.
Yeah.
He's aged so well.
Oh, like a fine wine.
That's exactly the note that I made.
Yeah.
Ted Danson has aged like fine wine.
My first note is Ted Danson is very handsome.
Yeah.
Which I think is a little bit less time sensitive, but
Well, maybe.
no less true.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, he's an attractive guy, but now, as in the current year, he is a silver fox. Man.
I think so. Yeah.
He's aged very. His acting as well, I think, has improved greatly. I don't know. Maybe it's just the shows he's been in recently. Things like The Good Place.
Yeah.
It kind of gives him a chance to kind of explore different styles of acting.
That's what I think it
different
is.
Scenarios.
His character being a little bit more out there in The Good Place lets him really kind of show off how good of an actor he is. Whereas Sam Malone's a bit of quite a straightforward character. He's just a bit of a
little bit more grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, we love Ted Danson. We love the cameos from Cheers as well, even though we can't really appreciate them quite as much as some people might.
Yeah.
I was looking at the viewing figures just before we checked, and this episode does have a significant peak in the series, obviously, because Ted Danson is returning. You'll get a lot of viewers who maybe haven't tuned into every episode of Frasier but want to see their old favourite character from Cheers coming back. So it was obviously a big deal. And it's not the first time. We had Lilith last season, and it's not the last time. I think most seasons have a cameo from some of the Cheers cast. But we'll get to that.
Yep.
We'll get to that. So Sam Malone comes back. We're dropped pretty much straight into the
he shows up
There's
almost
no
immediately.
there's no cold open or anything like that. Sam comes in. He says he's got a meeting with the Mariners. The Mariners, isn't it? The Seattle baseball team.
Yeah.
And wanted to stop in and say hi to Frasier. Very straightforward, but as it turns out, that was a lie. As Sam puts it, nobody's in town for the Mariners. Poor Seattle.
Yeah.
And his fiance, I guess, still.
Yeah.
A woman named Sheila phones Frasier. Not really sure how she would know to phone Frasier, but anyway.
Who knows?
Phones Frasier, phones the apartment, and asks for Sam. And it turns out that this is the woman that Sam was supposed to marry the previous day.
Yep.
He ran away, left her at the altar. Poor Sheila.
Yeah.
Now, Frasier obviously knows what this is like. With Diane. She left him at the altar. He's quite keen to figure out what happened, see if he can help Sam. You know, Frasier has this mentality of, I want to help my friends, you know, even if it's not my business. He always has this, like, mentality of getting involved.
Yeah.
So he does, and it turns out that Sheila, Sam's fiancée, was a woman that Frasier had a little encounter with a few months prior while they were engaged.
Yep.
He took a little trip to Boston. It was I don't know what he says, medical conference or something.
I think he said he went to visit Frederick.
Well, it was visit Frederick, maybe, visit his son. And, happened to be out one night and went home with a woman who happened to be Sheila. What are the odds, eh?
Oh, God.
Small world.
I wouldn't want to paint it.
No. And so this leads to little confrontation between them. Sheila wants to come clean to Sam, and she does.
Yeah.
But not about Frasier, about several other Cheers patrons who she happens to have slept with. It turns out that both she and Sam are both sexual compulsives, and they met at a SA meeting.
I suppose.
Sexuals Anonymous. I don't know what.
Sexaholics.
Sexaholics. Yeah, I don't really know.
When you're addicted to sexahol.
Love me some sexahol. And that's how they met. So Sam admits that he's cheated as well. It's just a bit of a weird scenario. But he eventually calls off the wedding entirely after Sheila admits to have having had slept with Cliff. Yeah, from the bar.
Cliff Clavin,
who we do meet eventually in
very
Frasier.
far on, yeah.
Quite a while away, but yeah, he's a strange chap. Not sure. I can't really picture that in my head somehow.
No.
How that came to be, but never mind. And that is the episode, more or less. I don't know about you, but there's not really much to it.
No, I agree. I think without being a Cheers fan, without having watched the show and knowing the names and knowing all, like, there's a bit at the beginning that's just kind of Sam walks in, flirts with Roz for a little bit, and then kind of just has this monologue of saying, like, well, here's what all of these different characters are doing now that, since we haven't seen them for a year or so since the show's ended. And there's not really much in the way of joke. Well, they are funny, the little descriptions of what everyone's up to, but it doesn't really mean anything if you don't know who the characters are.
Yeah, if you don't know the characters, completely.
So, it doesn't, this episode doesn't do much for me.
There's a couple of things I like about it. I like Roz at the start. Her flirting, obviously, with Sam, who is very... Was it sexually... is it permissive, you say?
Promiscuous.
Promiscuous. He's a sexaholic.
He's a sexaholic.
So, and we know what Roz is like. Yep. She's very promiscuous, I guess. So the meeting of those two is great to watch. Roz hands over a business card and says... it glows. No, what Frasier says, it glows in the dark, and Roz turns around as she leaves the room and says, "So do I." And I just love that.
Funny.
It's
great.
Perry Gilpin's Roz is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
such a great character. So their little interaction's great, and Martin and Sam's interactions I think are really nice as well. Martin's obviously a huge fan. He convinces Daphne to put out the fine china or whatever, the nice plates and cutlery for Sam coming around, and he does fanboy over him quite a bit, which is really, it's just nice. I don't know. I just like seeing Martin happy.
It is nice.
But no, I agree. There's not a huge amount happening in it, and not a huge amount of jokes either. So, one thing I did notice... Well, no, we'll do scores first, and then I'll mention that, because it's a wee bit of a spoiler for later on.
Yeah.
So I gave it 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah, I'm the same.
You're the same? Yeah, I thought we would...
We're back on the same page with this one.
Yeah.
It's a 2, because it does have good jokes in it. I think it's just lacking that foreknowledge of Cheers.
It's a bit... Yeah, Ted Danson's great. Tia Leone
is good.
Tia Leone plays Sheila. She's... great, but yeah, it's just not really much happens, which is a shame considering you've got a big character from Cheers coming back. But well. The one thing I did want to mention was there's a joke that Niles makes about he and Maris's wedding. He's mentioning. After they find out that Sheila was left at the altar by Sam, Niles is talking about his wedding and how he had jitters before his wedding with Maris, and Maris was very concerned and blah blah blah, and Niles was sweating and oh no, and Niles says, "Oh, I thought I was getting cold feet. Thankfully, it was just a congenital heart murmur that would plague me for the rest of my life." And I don't want to say too much about that.
Well.
But that is something that comes up again.
Yeah.
And I'd never noticed that before.
No, I hadn't even rewatching it then. I didn't really put that together.
I suspect that probably was not intentional.
Probably not.
Given the difference in seasons between the occurrences.
Yeah.
But it was funny listening to, well, not funny, it's not funny at all, but
not really.
It was interesting hearing that and thinking, oh wait, that does tie in. Well, we'll leave you in wait for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So the next episode is one that we mentioned, I believe, last episode.
I think so.
We kind of alluded to it. Daphne's room, which has so far gone unseen throughout the series. We finally get a glimpse into her life and where she fits into Frasier's apartment and I suppose their life as well.
Yeah.
Which is, I quite like.
Yeah. I
quite like it. I like having a bit more screen time for Daphne. We've not had a huge amount of, I don't want to say backstory because it's not backstory, but just more
a bit of insight into
a bit of insight and focus on her. It's nice to see. Excuse me. The episode starts with Frasier searching for a book. He cannot find the book.
Yeah.
It's a very boring book, which Martin basically dismisses entirely. So Frasier goes to search for it in Daphne's room. He does find it, but he is also caught by Daphne, sort of skulking around in her room.
Looking through her things. Looking
at pictures of her and Prince Charles.
Which is very funny.
Which is so weird.
Thinking about the time, this would have been 94, 95?
94.
Maybe early 95?
Oh, 95, yeah.
So this was like... that was a very... obviously just now, it's not the most culturally relevant joke. But like at the time, that was cutting edge. Talking about the whole Prince Charles having an affair.
Yeah.
It was only, a year and a half later that Princess Diana died.
Mm-hmm.
So I had totally forgotten about that joke. I think when I watched it, when I saw it when I was younger, I didn't pick up on...
I didn't know who, get it.
Either didn't know who that was, or I didn't get the relevance of what the joke was.
Yeah, I never understood the relevance of it. I always thought that the joke was that she had photoshopped herself into that photo. So like she was attracted to Prince Charles, so she photoshopped herself into the photo, rather than the fact that within the show's universe the photo is real.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a funny little joke once you realize what it is they're doing. Daphne, understandably, I think, is pretty upset.
Oh yeah,
by the invasion of privacy.
Absolutely.
And Frasier doesn't make things any better when he decides to return to the room to put back some... Is it heart medication? What is it? It's for something. For thyroid.
Yeah, we find out later on that she's on medication for thyroid.
Yeah.
Something thyroid related.
So he has accidentally, in quotes, pocketed her medication that she needs daily, and decides to nip back into the room to put them back. Daphne leaves, seemingly for the rest of the evening to go and do exercises with Martin, but returns when Martin's watching the football game and not interested in exercising. We then have a pretty unseemly scene of Frasier hiding in various places around Daphne's room while she undresses and prepares and then gets into the shower. Frasier hiding in the closet while she throws her undergarments into the closet, hiding under the bed while she puts a towel on, and then hiding in the bathroom when she actually gets into the shower.
Yeah.
It's a pretty weird scene.
Yeah.
It's not very... I don't know. I know it's played for laughs, but it's kind of creepy.
It's very creepy, yeah.
I'm not sure that it really sits very well these days, but...
No.
It's over soon-ish. After Eddie walks in and drinks from the toilet, Daphne shouts at him, but Frasier doesn't realise that it was Eddie and thinks he's caught, so makes an appearance and then runs out like E.T.
He does run out like E.T.
screaming. It's all just a bit of a cringy mess.
It is.
But yeah, again, understandably, Daphne is not particularly happy with that further invasion of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Frasier does sort of half-heartedly try to apologise, he is knocked back a peg.
Yeah.
And he has to basically bribe her
mm-hmm.
with a complete room redecoration.
Yeah.
Something that he has previously insulted and laughed at Niles for doing.
Yeah.
So while all this has been happening, Niles has been having a bit of a tiff with Maris. She wanted a big birthday bash,
mm-hmm.
But told Niles that she didn't.
Yeah.
He believed her, didn't throw a birthday party, and she was upset.
Of course.
This one's less understanding, but when it's Maris, you kind of...
You have to assume when it's Maris,
yeah.
I think.
Basically, it doesn't go well. Niles tries to make it up to her, he ends up making it worse, and the only thing he can do to make it better is buy her a brand new car. I mean... Ugh. There's no argument worth buying a brand new car. Rich people, I mean...
Oh yeah, if you have the money to buy a Mercedes just for that, then you may as well buy it for any reason.
It's, whatever, right. Niles and Maris live in their own little world. I won't get too bogged down with it. But Frasier was quite insulting and, derides Niles for doing this. He thinks it's not an appropriate way to live a married life, and I would agree, to be honest, but he then does the exact same thing in bribing Daphne.
Of course.
Coming back to this whole hypocritical character that he is, we had with Dr. Honey Snow,
yeah,
Niles is paying off Daphne with her dividends from the stock,
mm-hmm.
obviously under false pretenses, and Frasier is dating a woman,
yeah,
while leading her to believe that he likes her work. He always gets called out on it,
of course,
and he never seems to learn.
No, he doesn't.
He just kind of does whatever he wants, but criticizes other people for doing the exact same things. Okay. Again, different world, not getting too bogged down on it. They have the money to bribe people, so...
Yeah. God, I wish I had the money to bribe people.
I know, God.
I mean, I wouldn't.
You say
but
that.
I wish I had the money to.
It would make things a lot easier.
Yeah, it would.
The episode basically culminates with Niles feeling a bit, I guess, insulted, just that Frasier would bribe Daphne, mm-hmm. whilst insulting him for doing the same thing with Maris, and jumps into Daphne's room basically to get a rise out of him and to mock him, I guess.
Yeah.
Not realising that Daphne has threatened to quit if anyone is found in her room again.
Yeah.
And it ends with Niles drops a glass, it shatters on the floor. Frasier comes in to help clean it up. Martin gets involved as well, mm-hmm. and Eddie is running around. It's a complete mess. Daphne walks back in, and the episode ends with Frasier purchasing her a new convertible.
Yeah.
Obviously, a room redecoration wouldn't quite cut it that time.
At that point.
It's not a hugely funny episode. Some of the physical humour in the scene where Frasier's in Daphne's room, mm-hmm. is quite funny. if you take out the sort of creepy undertones,
Yeah.
the actual physical humour of Kelsey Grammer sort of running around the room while Jane Leeves is getting undressed is quite funny, which I quite like. And then we've got the whole sort of subplot leading in, the B plot leading into the main plot.
Yeah, the way that they overlap, as they often do.
Yeah, which is nice. But I quite like it. It's a nice, unique story. And it explores a bit of Daphne and how she fits in. You know, there's a good scene where she sits down with Frasier and explains why she was so hurt to find him in the room.
Yeah.
That she's always felt like a guest in the house, and having her own little room just makes her feel at home.
Yeah.
So when someone from her work life invades that privacy, it sort of hurts a lot more.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I like sort of understanding where Daphne comes from and how she fits in.
Yeah.
So I like this episode. I've got a soft spot for it. I think.
I'm not as big on it.
No.
I'm not going to completely write it off as terrible. I don't think it's bad. I just don't enjoy it that much. I like Niles in this. I think I like the B plot more than the main plot because a lot of Niles' lines are very funny, especially when he's talking about how he and Maris have reconciled. He talks about he has to eat 2 bran muffins because I have to replenish my body.
Yeah.
Just, oh God, terrible, but very, very funny.
I love his little speech. He orders. He's obviously very excited and happy that he has, reconciled, shall we say, with Maris. And he comes into Cafe Nervosa and he orders in Italian. I presume?
He orders in Italian.
But he ends the sentence with "and a brand muffin," and there's something really funny about the whole order being in Italian, apart from "and a brand muffin," and then he sort of says, "No. Due brand muffin." And something about the line delivery there is funny. So it's like, good.
I think we did actually mention it last week, but there's a lot of times in the show where the humor just falls back on David Hyde Pierce saying something in another language.
Yeah.
And it's always funny.
It works.
It just does. I know it sounds like a bit of a cop out, but
it is good.
It is funny.
It is good. There's a reason that they were cast.
Yeah.
You know, there's an episode on the next disc, on the final disc of season 2, that does the multi-language thing very good.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a whole scene dedicated to that humor, and it's brilliant. And I'm
so well that I think I'll need to double check for the next episode because I have gotten told off by people for misquoting people's Emmy wins. But I think it won the Emmy for writing.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Comedy screenwriting.
I would not be surprised.
Won or was nominated.
Okay.
I would need to double check and I'll mention it next week. But yes, it is very, very good. And there's, getting back to Niles talking about his escapades, now that he's reunited with Maris and she's forgiven him. And he's kind of going back and forth with Frasier and saying, Frasier's making fun of him for having had bribed Maris. And then Niles is kind of saying like, well, you have to do the same thing with Daphne because it's the only way that this is going to get smoothed over. You just need to give her a gift, just show how much you appreciate her or whatever. And Frasier calls him a coward and he says, oh, well, I'm a coward with a hickey.
Yeah.
And then Roz sitting at the same table says, buy me a Mercedes and I'll make your neck look like a relief map of the Andes.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. Roz's I think it's just, I suppose, flirtations.
Yeah.
Just with anybody and the way that she uses her wiles to kind of get what she wants. It's just always hilarious.
Honestly, I don't think she was joking there.
Oh, no.
I think she dead serious.
Yeah.
I think she would sleep with Niles if it meant she got a Mercedes.
Somewhere out there is a parallel universe where Roz and Niles are the endgame couple.
Oh, the best universe.
Because honestly, it would work. If the writing had gone a different direction, it could have worked.
There's a good episode with them later on.
Oh, yeah.
If you know the one I mean.
Yeah, I think so.
I really love that episode. I love their interactions, and I love the way their relationship evolves. They have some really good progression, I guess.
Yep.
So yeah, I really like them together. Okay, so You're saying middle of the road.
I give it a 2.
A 2.
A 2.
Little 2-cupper.
Yeah, it's not great. I think the episode overall is pretty low for me, but some of the dialogue and the B plot with Niles and Maris definitely bumps it up.
Mm-hmm. I went with a 4.
Yeah.
I went with 4 cups. Yeah, I really like this episode. I like how unique it is.
Mm-hmm. I
like the B plot. I like Niles, as you say, and I like the physical comedy and the sort of. I've said it throughout the understanding more of where Daphne comes from and where she fits in.
Yeah,
I think it's a really strong episode.
Yeah,
it's not a huge disagreement between the two.
No.
2 and a 4 is fine.
2 and a 4 is all right.
Whenever there's a 1 and anything above a 3,
a 1 and a not 1.
Yeah, that's a bit different. But yeah, 2 and a 4, that's fine. I'll settle for that. I will settle for that. Okay, final episode.
Yep.
The Club.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the Empire Club.
The Empire Club.
Niles has been invited to audition, try out.
Yeah, I guess it's going to a reception mixer
for new applicants to the Empire Club, a prestigious, elitist little get-together somewhere in Seattle. Something apparently very famous or infamous. Frasier, well, I suppose Frasier would know where it is.
Yeah.
But Roz knows of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
She has a tie to one of the senior members.
Yeah, she has an in.
We don't really know or want to know how that came about, but anyway.
It's not the last time they mentioned Rose getting off with a senator.
It is not. But Niles is invited to this mixer. He comes by to the station to make Frasier jealous. Roz suggests that Frasier gets involved as well and go to the mixer. And sort of off screen, there's a bit of an argument between Frasier and Niles, but ultimately they kind of settle their differences, and because there are 2 spaces available, they put their heads together, their significantly sized heads together, to try and formulate a plan to get them both in. And they do work very well together when they work well together.
Yeah.
But as so often it does, it goes south.
Yeah.
They go to the reception together, they're bouncing off each other great, and then they realise that there's only 1 spot available, which obviously leads to them throwing each other onto the bus.
Yeah.
And a big argument. I love watching them together. It is
just hilarious.
So good. Even when they're arguing, it's funny. Like, they're just the perfect siblings, perfect TV siblings.
They really are.
It's wonderful to watch them together. But yeah, so eventually Frasier receives a phone call. Well, Niles receives a phone call first to say that he's not been elected to the club, and Frasier has been. Turns out, after Frasier nobly decides to step down to allow Niles his sort of moment in the sun, I guess. Yeah. Frasier has enough fame, he decides that he doesn't want to take this away from Niles, decides to step down. It turns out that Niles was the one who was invited all along, and Frasier was too showbiz for the Empire Club. Unfortunately, Niles realizes this too late. Comes to the club to make a scene. Yeah. Here's another one of your scenes where if someone just stood up and said something sooner, the whole thing would be avoided.
I do.
The whole catastrophe.
I stand by that. If I'm ever saying something embarrassing, just shout at me and tell me to shut up. Don't feel bad about interrupting. Just scream at me. Rugby tackle me, whatever.
But yes, Niles makes some rather insulting remarks to other members of the club, and they are both promptly carried out.
Including, and I'm looking up his name just now, the...
W. Morgan Shepherd?
Yes, that was the person I was looking up, yes.
I do love
William Morgan Shepherd.
W. Morgan Shepherd.
He is a...
You will know him from anything. he has been
Lots of
in
things.
pretty much every decent lengthed series in recent memory.
Yeah.
He's been in, off the top of my head, I know him from Gilmore Girls, Doctor Who, Supernatural.
When is he in Gilmore Girls?
I think, again, actually, he plays a member of one of the clubs.
Oh, maybe.
I can't remember exactly what the episode is, but he is in it.
This is where it's revealed that we both know more about Gilmore Girls than we should as men of our age. But
It's a good show.
It is a good show. I stand by it. Yeah, the thing that I know him from is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
He plays the villain in Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Yeah.
He was in a couple of different Star Trek films. He was in one of the original Star Trek films and in the first of the J.J. Abrams reboots.
He's, of course, the father of other Shepherd, Mark Shepherd.
Is he?
He is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Did you not know that?
No, I didn't know that.
He is the father of Mark Shepherd.
Okay. The other person that's been in
The
every
other
decent length series ever made.
also in
Doctor
Who, the same episode actually as his dad. He's also in Supernatural, plays a huge part in that. He's in Firefly.
Yeah.
Countless things.
Yeah.
He's in everything. And yeah, so there you go. There's our big guest actor who, even if you don't know his name, you will recognize him from something.
Very easily recognizable.
Guarantee you. Sadly passed away quite recently.
Yeah, he did.
Last couple of years. Which is a shame because he was a good actor.
He is a good actor.
He's a good character actor.
Great.
A really good episode. Really
I think it's
funny,
a great episode. Yeah,
probably the best of the disc.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Niles Frasier sibling friendship / rivalry is always a treat to watch.
Yeah.
This it's not quite as prominent in this episode compared to the likes of like Author, where it takes sort of center stage for the whole episode. It doesn't feel like this is the focus a lot. I don't know, I can't really describe it because it is the main plot of the episode, but there's sort of other things happening around. The likes of Daphne going with Frasier being his date for the reception because his date cancelled. Niles going round to see Martin while Frasier's out trying to get Niles' place back in the club.
Yeah.
It feels like there's other things happening around the main plot. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean.
I see
what you're saying.
Yeah.
See, I think it's because two of the like episode themes that you see across the whole show is like Frasier and Niles being competitive with each other, and Frasier and Niles being snobs, being like elitist snobs, or like feeling like they're left out of whatever club or day spa. There's an episode later on, so it's kind of doing both of those at once. It's not just purely them being competitive. It's them being competitive with each other while also being elitist to everyone else. But yeah, no, I think it's a good episode.
I think it's very good. I gave it 4 out of 5 cups.
I also gave it 4 out of 5 cups.
Excellent. We're in agreement.
We're in agreement there.
It is. It is very good. It's very funny. There's some good snippy one-liners.
There's some great. There's one that is my highlight. We'll do highlights in a minute. It's my highlight of the.
Okay, well, I'll wait for
disc.
that then.
But yeah, there is actually on top of William Morgan Shepherd, there is another. There's an actual guest caller rather than an actual appearance of a guest character. Gary Sinise, the wonderful actor Gary Sinise, who was kind of at the peak of his career at this point in the kind of early to mid 90s. He was Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump.
Oh, that's
He was
nice.
in Apollo 13, which came out around the same year as this episode would have done, I think,
if
or
not
around
close,
about the same time. He was George in the film adaptation of Mice and Men, opposite John Malkovich as Lenny.
Okay.
Have you seen Of Mice and Men?
I have not.
No.
I know the story.
Did you not get made to read and watch it when you were in school?
I did not. I managed to avoid that. We did Great Gatsby instead.
I did Great Gatsby.
You had suffered them both.
I had to do it twice. I had to do Great Gatsby twice, and I had to do
Oh well.
At least they both got good film adaptations, which I could watch instead of reading the book.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, they're all right.
If you say so. Yeah, I did make one note which I giggled about afterwards, but it's Niles after Niles makes a bit of a tit of himself at the club. He gets carried out by Mr. Big Butler. Mr.
Big Butler.
Because I don't know his actual name.
No.
They don't reveal the butler's name, so I just called him Mr. Big Butler.
I bet his name's something like Rocco.
Rocco. Do you think they would allow someone called Rocco into their elitist club?
Maybe.
Rocco the Butler.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call it.
Maybe Rococo instead and make it a little bit more...
a bit more exotic.
Yeah.
Henceforth, he shall be Rococo the Butler. Well, there you go. Another mixed disc.
Yeah, definitely mixed for me.
Bit of disagreement on a couple of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think that's we're definitely coming to a head.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a 1 and a 5 at some point. I can feel it.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. So, give me your highlight.
So my highlight is from the club.
Yep.
And it's from the scene when they are at this mixer reception where they're kind of trying to show off to people, and they've got written their little crib sheet of the members so that they can kind of suck up to them and talk about how great their universities are, so that because everyone's always so proud of the fact that they went to Princeton or whatever. And Frasier introduces Niles as Dr. Niles Crane, the eminent psychiatrist. And Niles says, "Oh, my brother is too kind. He was already eminent when my eminence was merely imminent." And that's got to be one of the funniest lines in the whole show. So it just always cracks me up.
It's always... We can only praise the writing so much before it just becomes... totally redundant, but it seriously is wonderful. When you get lines like that, you see why it was such a loved show. You know, it's great. Do you have? I mean, there's a couple of episodes that you really did not like.
Yeah.
Is there I'll ask this week. Is there a specific low point? Is there a specific thing that you dislike about the disc? You've gone over things like Frasier's attitude. I
think it's just Frasier's attitude generally across, half of these episodes. He's either just like really rude and inconsiderate, or he's completely arrogant and obnoxious and thinks he knows better than everyone else. Or at worst, he's pretty deeply sexist towards Honey Snow.
Yeah.
Just like assuming that her only quality is the fact that she's attractive. So overall, I think if there's one thing that demonstrates that most of all is the bit at the end of You Scratch My Book, when he's getting turfed out on his ass, quite rightly, by Honey Snow, and she says it ends not with a bang but with a whimper, and then he just whimpers to himself because he's just being a pathetic little worm. And so that's, I don't know if I could say it's a low light, because I do enjoy seeing it.
I know what you mean.
But it's definitely, it summarizes what I dislike about these episodes.
I get it. I understand what you mean. So I've not really thought of a highlight for this disc, but looking back on it now, I think there's two, and I've mentioned them both. The first one is Niles or David Hyde Pierce's "I hope you're happy."
Yeah.
Which is wonderful.
Of course.
But I also really like Kelsey Grammer's E.T. run in Daphne's room. Because it's ridiculous. But we've mentioned the physical comedy multiple times now. And it's... This is one of the... I don't know. This is one of the most physical scenes. I don't know how to sort of phrase it, but you know what I mean. It's very prominent here. We've got little scenes, like Frasier and Niles dancing. But this is a he's bolting through the full apartment. It's a big scene of Kelsey Grammer doing some physical comedy, and his little E.T. scream and run it's really funny. It always makes me giggle.
It is funny.
So I'm going to stick with that for my highlight. and I don't.
You don't really have a low light?
Don't really have a low light, to be honest. No, there's a couple of things I'm less fond of, but overall, I think I probably liked the disc a lot more than you did. So,
yeah, I think overall, this is definitely not the best one for me.
We'll let you take the the low lights for both of us. There you go.
That's how it goes.
Well, there we are. We are almost at the end of season 2. One disc to go, and what a disc it is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what a disc it is. You know, the end of season 1 has some amazing episodes.
Yeah.
But it also has a couple of less good episodes. This next disc is...
The end of season 2 is...
pretty consistent.
Pretty consistently great.
Yeah, it's really pretty excellent. So I'm looking forward to going over that with you.
Yeah.
Next week.
Very much.
On Le Frères, Heureux, the Frasier podcast. With 2 happy brothers.
Very happy.
I'm just trying to drag it out.
Yeah.
There we go. So, thank you all for listening. Have a great day and good mental health. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.